Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Well, good morning. The time being 9 a.m. I declare open the general meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for the 15th of March 2022. Call for apologies. There's no apologies. Obviously, Councillor Goodluck and myself are teamsing in for this meeting. Next item on the agenda, councillors, is messages of condolence. Do we have any messages of condolence? No messages of condolence today. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the prior notifications of conflicts of interest. Rachel, do we have any conflicts of interest registered?
Yes, Mayor, we have conflicts of interest for Councillor Trevor, and you've also given a prior notification.
Thank you. Councillor Trevor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I, Councillor Chris Trevor, advise that in agenda item G/3.6, minor amendments to work health and safety policy, that I have a perceived conflict of interest as from time to time my law firm, Chris Trevor and Associates, may receive instructions from an employee of council regarding workplace injuries suffered during the course of their employment with Gladstone Regional Council. I will leave the meeting for the consideration of and any voting in relation to agenda item G/3.6. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Sorry, Tanya, I didn't see you there. I have a conflict of interest as well, but I'll wait to see if other councillors do. Any other conflicts registered, please, councillors? No? Well, I'll declare a conflict of interest in item G3.1, the Boyne-Tatum Aquatic Recreation Concept Plan Design, because as obviously the Labor candidate for the federal seat of Flynn, we've committed $15 million to Gladstone Regional Council to build that facility. And I think it would be inappropriate for me to be in the room while that conversation is being had. So I will leave the meeting, and Lisa can message me when the meeting resumes, and I'll rejoin by Teams. No further conflicts of interest, councillors? No further conflicts of interest. I'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is the Mayor's statement on current issues. And of course, on the 5th of March at Marley Brown Oval, the home of Gladstone Rugby League, we hosted the Central Queensland Capras and the PNG Hunters, and a whole range of games and activities, including coaching clinics and everything, and a festival of rugby league in Gladstone. It was fantastic to see the Capras get the win too. The entertainers put on a good show, but Capras came home strong, which was really good to see that game. Obviously, we had some Bronco stars and some Dolphin stars in the community as well that weekend, and we're really looking forward to working with the Dolphins next year to see if we can't secure either a trial match or maybe a season proper game eventually for the Redcliffe Dolphins at Marley Brown in Gladstone. On the 6th of March, we had Clean Up Australia Day, and I'd like to thank the Youth Council and our council community team who got out and involved, and everybody in the Gladstone region who got involved and supported Clean Up Australia Day. I don't have the amount of tonnes that were collected, but no doubt there was obviously lots of rubbish around the region, and it's fantastic to see local volunteers get out and about and supported by our council staff to Clean Up Australia Day. Can I also acknowledge on International Women's Day on the 8th of March, the Gladstone Engineering Alliance function at the Entertainment Centre. Well done to the GEA team for putting that a sold-out event on, and obviously acknowledging the great work that ladies and women do across our local community, and particularly in our local council, of course, headed up with our CEO, Lisa Dowling, our general managers and our councillors as well. Thank you to Councillor O'Grady and Councillor Muscat. On the 9th of March, I was in Agnes with our General Manager, John Tumbers, and people might remember that we had a bit of wild weather in Agnes Water 1770. Firstly, in 1770, almost a mini tornado went through there, and the SES and local volunteers and council staff got in and cleaned that up. And no soon after that, a few days later, did Agnes Water lose power to our treatment plant, the water treatment plant in Agnes as well. But the team got in and got involved, and with the support of Trilogy, council staff, Eureka, and of course Ergon, they fixed the problem, and we had water back to our local community in Agnes Water 1770 very quickly. We didn't actually run out of water, which was fantastic news, because the local community conserved while we were fixing the problem. But I really want to say thank you to everyone who got involved. Trilogy did an amazing job, but to John, to you and your team, and working together with Ergon and the contractors, getting that water treatment plant back online so quickly is a testament to all your hard work there. So thank you for that. Of course, on Saturday night, it was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Our combined school musical was launched, and that is now continuing at the Gladstone Entertainment Centre till the 20th of March. So if you haven't got your tickets, most shows are probably sold out. I'm not sure if there's any tickets left, but certainly 49722822 is the Entertainment Centre number. or jump onto the box office and you'll be able to get your tickets if there's any tickets left. Coming up, we have the Tatum Crab Classic, famous event in Boyne Tatum on the 27th of March. And this year we'll be back at the Tatum Sands Hotel. So the big the mud crab race. So certainly looking forward to that on the 27th of March. So if you want to get involved in that as well, make sure you check out the Tatum Crab Classics Facebook page. We also have got an update on our Brisbane to Gladstone yacht race. This year we look like we have around 50 mono hulls competing for line honours in the Courier Mail Cup, and that includes the yachts that are competed in the Sydney to Hobart, including line honours winner Blackjack and handicap winner for the Tattersalls Cup Ichiban. They'll both be competing in the Brisbane to Gladstone this year along with Stephen Hare, and that gives us about a fleet of 60 when you include there'll be about 10 multis in the race as well. So of course we are live streaming that to the world thanks to the Queensland Cruising Yacht Club Council and the team at Cooper Mackenzie Marketing. Will be live streaming our race from Good Friday morning from Thorncliffe, so that's going to be a fantastic event, not to be missed. Of course, around Easter in Gladstone, and to Kylie and your team, our Easter in Gladstone events are really gaining momentum. Obviously, our Harbour Festival is very popular, but our B2G Village is back again this year as well. So really looking forward to getting involved in Easter in Gladstone this year. Thank you, councillors. That's all I have for the Mayor's statement on current issues at this point. What I'd like to do now, considering I'm teamsing in and the Deputy Mayor is teamsing in, I'd like to put a motion that Councillor Trevor chair the rest of the meeting. I will remain on the meeting, but I think it's probably more efficient if Councillor Trevor chairs the meeting from the boardroom there. So I'll put that motion. Can I have a second, please? Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Was it Churchill?
Yeah, that
Sorry.
was me seconding. There was a few of us rushed in, but that was not me speaking.
Sorry, my camera. Rick, Councillor Hanson will be pleased to know the only two councillors I can see other than the chair at the moment is yourself and Rick. So I'll put the
just
motion.
before you do that, Mr. Mayor.
Yes?
I'm not sure whether you clarified that Councillor Branthwaite was also coming in online as well, because people will see a spare seat here, that he is coming in online.
Yes, sorry, yes. So I see Councillor Branthwaite online as well. Thank you. Yes, so I've got a move room, obviously myself there to the Councillor Trevor chair the meeting, seconded by Councillor Churchill. Is there any discussion on that? No, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you. Councillor Trevor, I will take back the chair, obviously, when you have your conflict for that brief agenda item, and then I'll hand back to you again. Over to you, Councillor Trevor. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Mayor. Councillors, Mayor, the next item on the agenda is item G/2, confirmation of the minutes. So we need a mover and a seconder for the confirmation of the general meeting minutes for 1 March 2022. We have a mover, Councillor Hanson. We have a seconder, Councillor Cameron. All in favour? That's carried. The next item on the agenda is item G/3, Officers' Reports, G/3.1, Boyne Tatum Aquatic Recreation Centre Concept Design. The Mayor's conflict of interest is noted. He will now leave not the chamber but the online forum, and we'll have the General Manager, Strategy and Transformation, Carly Quinn, reporting. Thanks, Carly.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Good morning, councillors and community. So the development of a public aquatic recreation centre for Boyne Island and Tatum Sands is a major strategic project for the Gladstone Regional Council and has the potential to unlock ongoing economic impacts for the local community, including the creation of almost 100 jobs during construction and a boost of almost $14 million to our gross regional product. It's also anticipated to increase the Gladstone region's appeal with the addition of a new tourism attraction and more so enhancing the health and fitness, livability and community wellbeing of the Boyne Tatum community. This report allows Council to consider the concept design that's been completed for the proposed facility. An initial feasibility study influenced the design components, followed by community engagement, which further provided context on the community's wishes as well as the location. This, combined with several rounds of targeted engagement with stakeholders, technical specialists and officers, has seen the selection of both the site and then the location on that site. It's also seen the refinement of options to the concept designs that are that's presented today. Office's recommendation is to adopt the concept design presented in Attachment 1 and proceed to the define phase of Council's investment decision framework, which will include completing detailed designs and submitting a development application. The next phase of work will be extensive and, where possible, we'll be undertaking it concurrently to reduce time. However, there is significant activity to undertake our legal and compliance obligations on this matter, which is detailed on page 9 of today's report. It's estimated that budget required to undertake this next phase of work will be around $720,000, and if the officer's recommendation is endorsed today, we'll further refine that work that's required in the next stage, and we'll make budget presentations for the project via our normal budget approval process for the 22-23 financial year. Although the project is at concept design stage, and many of the studies that will be undertaken as part of the DA could influence the construction costs of the facility, construction is currently projected to be in the order of $21 million. On receipt of the detailed design and development application decision, officers will be able to provide Council further clarity on whole-of-life costs, operating costs, and further to what's already included in today's report to support a potential future final investment decision on the project. I also have Erickson Noakes, our strategic project specialist, who's been the project manager on this project, in case we have any tricky questions that I can't answer.
Thanks, Carly. Thanks, Erickson. We have Councillor Branthwaite and Councillor Goodluck online. I might go to them firstly for convenience only and ask Councillor Branthwaite or Councillor Goodluck whether they have any questions arising out of the report.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. So I suppose there's been a lot of conjecture as far as the layout's concerned with what we've been looking at. I see that there's possibly obviously I suppose a compromise as far as budgetary constraints and what the wish list is and what the wish list can have and can't have. As far as the water slide, I see there's some possibly some components there that, like a paddling pool or a learn to swim side of things that has been called for, but it's not actually there. It's just labelled as a grassed area on the plan. Is that fixed in concrete, or I shouldn't say that. It's probably a phrase of words, but is there still development to go left on that?
So it is still concept design, obviously. We're not at detailed design or final investment decision gate. But if you're referring to learn to swim, there is capacity for learn to swim in this concept design. That's why we have the bulkhead in there, so that bulkhead can move to any part of the 50-metre pool. So you can have, for example, swim club on one side. You could have learn to swim on the other side. You could have leisure, just general recreation on one side. So that's been built into the design to allow that flexibility. You might be talking more about a sort of a splash zone type of element. That's not in this current design.
Okay, so can you just explain to me how that bulkhead side of things works? Are there starting blocks on that bulkhead? Is there timing things that are within the bulkhead for short course arrangements or things like that?
I'll defer to Eric for the exact details on the bulkhead.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. The bulkhead is essentially to enable the 50-metre pool to diversify the use of it. As Carly mentioned, it enables a demarcation of smaller spaces within the 50-metre pool to provide program type of services. So learn to swim, as Carly mentioned, aquatic exercise. The bulkhead is also designed to enable those short courses, so that's something that we would include in the detailed design specifications, where the council would be open to increasing the functionality of that bulkhead to have timing mechanisms within the bulkhead. That is not something that we've considered in the concept design. That is detailed specifications and functionality that we would undertake and evaluate in the detailed design process.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric. It's an excellent report, by the way. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Branthwaite. Deputy Mayor Khan.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. So just with the small splash area, perhaps to Carly, is there, I understand the intent from here has to been not to, create another facility that would, to create another facility that would complement the existing Gladstone Aquatic Centre. Just with the splash zone type area for the younger kids, is that something that we can look to explore through this next stage of the process, or is it a decision that needs to be made here today?
No, it's not a decision that you'd need to make today. If the decision is that we will progress through to detailed design, we can certainly look at that element, and as we start to refine the costs at detailed design, we'll have a lot more information on what this is going to cost and whether we can afford adding some of those extra elements in.
Okay, that's good. I'd just like to say thank you for the considerable work that's been done over a number of years on this project. It is great to see, and I think this facility, pending Council's decision here today and future decisions, but it'll be a great addition to the Boyne Tatum community. I think it'll not only add to jobs through construction and operation, but it'll be an attraction to the area, and it's something that we don't have, particularly with the water slide component, anywhere in the region. So people will come to Boyne Island and Tatum Sands to have that experience from right across the region, not to mention from outside. So I think it'll be a pretty special development, and I'm happy to support the recommendation here today. Thanks, Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Glenn.
Sorry, Councillor Trevor. I think Councillor Muscat put her hand up before me, so as a courtesy.
We've got plenty of time.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. I'll make this one brief, which is unusual for me, but I'm just extremely pleased and excited that we've actually got to this stage after a long period of time. In your report, you've indicated that we've been out to community consultation in 2019 to determine what the objectives are, and your report's clearly articulated that you've developed a concept that has addressed all those objectives. I'd still like to go back to one particular point. I've got a lot of questions, but I don't think today's the time for the questions. I think it's in the next or subsequent discussions. But from my perspective, I believe that there's a lot of questions that most people in the community want to ask. And there's probably more information that they're wanting to gather. So I'd like to simply make or ask you at this stage, as part of the next step in the process, the challenge is for us to ensure that we can fulfil the principle of community engagement, which I believe in 2019 was for a few weeks. But if we're going to undertake the principle of including the community in the discussion, and I refer to our principle of decision of council should demonstrate community inclusivity and involvement in the decision-making process. Now, I've raised this previously, and in some ways I challenged the process, even though others might say trust the process. I'm challenging the process because if we get to the stage of this council being the proponent and being the proponent for the development of the facility, if we get to that stage, and subsequently we're also the governance in relation to the development application, then the process says that we then go out to submissions for people to put their submissions in as part of a development, the legal development process. I'd like to think that we could perhaps fulfil the principle of including the community before we go to the development application. So I'd appreciate your response or your comment in relation to how we're going to do that with community engagement based on a concept that's still flexible.
So as we move into detailed design, we probably have to stop being so flexible on the design because we're getting into that detailed space. But between the concept design and before we commence that, which is probably in the next 3 months, is our opportunity to hear any feedback from the community. There is a very large communications plan that has been prepared for today, obviously pending a decision and pending what the decision is as to what communication goes out to the community. However, detailed in that is a really extensive frequently asked questions, and we're really looking for the community to engage with us on that document on our conversations platform and to provide some feedback and to give us more of the questions that we potentially haven't raised on that so that we can keep adding to that and get the community's feedback over the coming weeks on that. We will, of course, align to the community engagement policy, which is aligned to the IAP2 practices, and the team, once there's a resolution today, the next stage will be that the project team will come together and work out what is the next stage of communication, next stage of engagement, and then next stage for the actual project. So we haven't written the engagement plan for the next stage yet because it will be pending what today's outcomes are.
Terrific, thanks for that. As I said at the opening, I'm pleased and I'm excited we've got to this stage after a long period of time, and I'm very supportive. And in actual fact, I'm not quite sure whether Councillor Khan did, but I'm prepared to move the officer's recommendation so that we can get on to a debate on this, provided that you've got a seconder for it, Councillor Trevor, because I think, and I just want to get it on record again, that because in local government land, unfortunately, because we comply with the requirements of the planning process, you're indicating that there will be a community engagement plan, community inclusivity, before the development application would be submitted if we got to that stage.
Yeah, I'm committing that we will have a detailed communications plan and engagement plan, and if council need to see visibility of that before we proceed, we can arrange that.
And elected members will be invited and involved.
Absolutely.
Lovely, thank you, I'm satisfied.
So, Councillor Glenn, you're moving the officer's recommendation, is that correct?
That's correct, Councillor Trevor.
Thank you. And do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Cameron, thank you, a seconder. Natalia, do you have a question or questions?
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. I have a couple. Okay. First, thank you. I know this has been a long process, but at the same time, I think it's been long, but it's been necessary though. This is probably the first project that I see that has gone through, well, at least as far as possible into the investment decision framework that we have. And I'm actually quite excited about that. So I feel a lot safer and a lot confident that we are doing what we are supposed to be doing, that we're taking into account the things that we need to take into account, that we understand the cost, we understand the risk, we understand the future and what can happen and what cannot happen. So in that way, I think I'm a big fan of the investment decision framework and how that helps us and the community understand our decisions and where we invest their money. Our money, everyone's money. So that's actually, I'm actually quite proud of it. Thank you, and of your team anyway. So now, I'm also really happy about the sort of compromise that we got to in relation to some of the designs that we had. The fact that we be able to use the pool all year round. That was something we discussed, and after this significant investment, and then to end up with a facility that is mostly used half the time, or 6 months or 8 months of the year, it's just doesn't seem to me as good as what we have now. The option to split the pool in different areas, so to cater for different needs, and the fact that it's heated, although obviously it's not covered. I think we even looked at some where we have covered pools or indoor pools, and that would have cost a lot more, I guess. But so we understood sort of that kind of compromise and what we needed to have and what we can have, are able to have. This is in relation to also the comment that Councillor Goodluck made. I can see the pool, it's also a little bit targeted to more of like a teenager sort of base. And I will also like to see something that caters for little kids. I'm not talking about a splash zone or anything that will replicate what we already have in the region, but some sort of, even if it's just a small playground or something like that, that will cater for kids under, I don't know, 10 or 12, I'm not sure, but little ones. And I don't think we need to put that into any resolution or motion as long as it's taken into consideration. Now, I also wanted to see if it was possible to add to the motion an amendment in relation to contacting candidates for this federal election. I know we understand that the Labor Party has already committed about $15 million for this project, but we haven't heard from any of the others. So I would like to, I'm not sure if that would be appropriate and if Councillor Churchill would agree to this, and same Councillor Cameron to second that amendment that we add, that we contact the candidates for the federal federal election in the Flynn electorate, a formal communication to them about committing to the pool. And because obviously we have a commitment from the Labor Party, but not from, at this stage, from the other parties. So if the Labor Party is not successful in the next election, we might not actually have access to these funds, and that will be quite sad, especially now that we're all excited that we might be able to have it. So, and I have another question too, but should we deal with the amendment first, or?
Yes, we can deal with the amendment now. Councillor Glenn.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Councillor Trevor. Councillor Muscat, I understand your intent of trying to determine appropriately if all parties could make a commitment to this important community infrastructure. The fact that one already has, subject to, has probably drawn attention to all the other candidates, but I'm probably not prepared to move any amendment to it at this particular stage without not wanting to, with the intent of not making this a political football of toing and froing. And I understand your intent, but I do believe that this council, we have already written to all candidates that we're aware of, and we've provided them with a document that has outlined our requirements, which includes the Tatum aquatic facility. So that's probably first and foremost. I believe that this council also has been extremely proactive at this particular stage to determine or invite as a deputation all candidates to meet with council in a public forum, be it, or a private forum. I'm not exactly sure what that forum will end up being, but that's customary for us in local government land. And I think the other part, thirdly, is subject to getting a resolution today or unanimous support for this project. I have no objection to the CEO writing to the candidates again, if that be the case, but that would be par for the course on any of these important projects. But I just want to remind everybody today that our previous resolutions have never been on this project, as we have done in other projects, subject to funding. Our previous resolutions have been quite clear and concise that we will proceed with whatever the case might be, wherever the funding may come from. And whilst today I understand your intent, Councillor Muscat, but there's no reason why industry couldn't contribute to this community facility. There's no reason why we can't find other stakeholders or other partners over and above the federal candidates who are aspiring to be elected into federal politics. So from my perspective, if we're going to write to anybody to contribute to funding, we should be writing to everybody and anybody. So does that answer your question at this stage, Councillor Muscat? I'm not prepared to amend the motion as it stands at the moment, but I understand your intent. And if we're going to be able to
Okay.
deliver this project, we need everybody to be committed to it and source funding from anywhere and everywhere.
I agree with that, and that's been the intent the whole time, and that's why we have different models of funding this facility. That we will proceed, that's really been up to the investment decision framework and the steps, and it's up to us. It's not necessarily, it could be up to funding, but it might be up to something else as well.
Before you proceed,
And also the
Councillor
idea is
Muscat.
that we actually have an election coming up, and that was where my amendment was coming from.
Have we got an election?
Yes, we do.
Well, we've got an election, we've got a state election coming up, then we've got local government election, we've got everything else. But for good governance, I suppose, there was a seconder of my motion.
Yep.
I'm not quite sure whether Councillor Cameron
okay.
was perhaps wanting to.
I'll move to my following question.
It's all right,
that's
Councillor
okay.
Glenn, I'm just trying to get a word in. Councillor Natalia, do you wish to withdraw your proposed amendment? I think,
Yeah.
from my perspective, if you're a candidate in the upcoming federal election and don't realise the gravity and importance of this hot button issue for the Boyne-Tatum community, well then perhaps you should be looking at an alternate position.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I'm glad I just brought this conversation to the table anyway.
Thank you.
So
Natalia.
whether it's a formal
Thank you.
amendment or not.
So the amendment is withdrawn, and we're moving to.
I have a last question, but
Sorry,
Thank you.
did you-
Just to
yes.
clarify, as the seconder, I do agree with Councillor Churchill's sentiments. Also understand where Councillor Muscat was coming from. It would be lovely to have a guarantee from all sections of government, but that's not what we're here for today. We just want to move this project on.
Yeah.
And thank you for withdrawing.
Yes, sorry, Councillor Chris, I should have requested your advices and thoughts on the matter. My apologies. Councillor Desley?
yeah, I have another question, yeah.
I thought you'd finished.
No, that's just one more. I mean, and this is, in a way, I know you can't tell us what's going to happen in the future or anything like that, but obviously we have another proponent they intend to build some sort of aquatic facility and a development application that was approved last week or 2 weeks ago. So there would be a potential that when we get to a point where we have a DA ready, that if this sort of continues and happens without any issues, how do you see the likelihood of having an appeal from people like the proponents? I know you can't say anything, but at the end of the day, if we were faced with the situation in which somebody is telling us that we can't have two facilities that will not be able to survive if there's two, or there won't be enough people to attend those two facilities, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah. Do you mind if I just provide you a little bit of comfort
Sure.
on your last question as well? Just,
Yes, thank you.
Further to all of the things that Councillor Churchill mentioned, we do have an extensive stakeholder engagement plan for this project and all strategic projects, and all levels of government are involved in that. So state, local and external stakeholders are all provided regular updates at key milestone times, and obviously any decision made today would be a key milestone time. So there'll be communication additional to what Councillor Churchill has indicated as well. And I guess you're right, I can't comment on who may put submissions forward, but we will obviously put everything we can into making sure that we have a transparent and prudent process with the development application. There's a number of ways we can undertake that, and that'll be part of the next phase of work, is working that out, whether this is something we do externally to make sure that we've got that transparency and separate from council, or whether it is something we do internally. But yeah, we'll obviously make sure that we have, it's our intention to have a strong development application and to meet any requirements that council that council puts on the application.
Yeah,
any conditions.
Yeah, I think that sort of reinforces also the need to have the community understand what we're doing, because we have seen in the past how a private developer just goes around the community and produces, thousands of little pamphlets and then sends it to everybody with incorrect information and things that we're not endorsing or anything like that. And and then everybody just pushes a button and then sends a thing, yeah, I support it, in sort of a way of a petition thing. So, I mean, it will be really disappointing to see something happening if we were about to put a DA and we had all these people rallying against it or just because something like this could happen.
Councillor Desley.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. I just have one question. With the roadworks and the car parking, is that part of the concept design? So has the costing been worked out within the slip road and onto the with the parking out the front of the pool?
Thank you, Councillor. That is included in the current cost estimates for the construction of the facility, so that includes the car parking and associated road infrastructure.
Sorry, Councillor.
Just very quickly. You're going to mop up, are you? No, I won't mop up, but I agree with Councillor Muscat regarding the investment decision framework, and we're following that, which is good. It's a fairly long process, though, and that probably won't sit that well with the community, and I'm sure it doesn't. We've got many variables. I'm very, very happy with the concept design, and we'll support it. We've got many variables moving forward, though, in finance options and decisions to be made, and another proponent in the wings. We need, though, to explain all of this to the community, because the understanding, I don't think, can be just made from this meeting to the community if people are watching. It has to be really explained explicitly so that the community knows what stages we have to go through and what timeline we're looking at as well. So, but I'm very happy with the concept design. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Rick, and I think it's a very good point in summing up that the expectation of the community in relation to this project is obviously great, but delivery of it can sometimes be a problem. And for those who've been around in government land for a long time, and even for a short time, probably now realise that it takes many, many years from the date of the announcement and the appearance on the front page of the paper or on the ABC News or any other news-worthy station, that the design and planning and final investment decisions and accessing money from either state or federal government or alternate resources or sources take many, many years. Many, many years from the day the announcement is first made. And the public, I would ask, appreciate that we are doing the best that we can in what is otherwise very, very difficult circumstances, financially and otherwise. And it's not easy to deliver any project, including one that is significant as this. We have a DA approval to get through. We have potential objections to get through. We have design and planning to get through. We have going cap in hand to governments to get through, even though there's already been a commitment by federal Labor, which will help, of course, to the extent of $15 million. Will be gratefully received. But there are many, many hoops to jump. And I know that the expectation of the community in Boyne-Tatum is for delivery as soon as possible. What needs to be understood is that this project, no matter how hard we work to deliver it, could be some years away. And it's almost impossible to prognosticate as to the length of time it's going to take for delivery of this project for the community. And as long as there's an understanding and not an expectation that we're going to be able to, assuming the decision today is in the affirmative, deliver this project within a matter of months, should be immediately discounted because having been around for a long time in government, through no fault of anybody, these, including our officers and support staff, these projects take many, many years from the date of announcement. Been there, done that, seen it many, many times, wearing different hats. and I can assure the public that if there is momentum for this project, the delivery of it will still take many years, and the expectation for delivery tomorrow should not be there. Because, to be honest with you, it simply won't happen in the short term. We have a mover.
Councillor Trevor, before you put it to the vote, one pertinent question that you highlight, though, to ensure we don't have a phase or a period of prognostication, could we get an indication at this stage of a timeline of when it will get to the, as it is in the resolution, the defined phase? If you could give, I'm not holding you to a particular determined timeline, but if you could give us a fairly good indicative advice as to when we will arrive at that next stage into the defined phase.
So also after today, pending any decision, the communication that we'll go out to the community will have the timeline on it as well, so that will be made very much available to the community as of this afternoon. But at this stage, and assuming no delays in development applications and extensive objections or anything like that, we're looking at getting to the final investment decision gate by July 2024.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. You just mentioned the process for the development application. I'll go back to my question. We're going to have that community engagement before we submit the development application, which was the question earlier.
Yeah, no, I'll reconfirm the answer is that we will have a level of engagement. I can't tell you how detailed that will be, but you will have visibility of that plan before we commence.
Wonderful, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Khan, did you have a question?
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. Excuse me. I just wanted to, on a couple of points, I do agree with Councillor Hanson. There's confusion, excuse me, in the community at the moment. Obviously, we've got a private proponent that's got a DA approved last fortnight, and there's some confusion in the community that we might end up with two aquatic recreation facilities, and we know that's probably highly unlikely. So I think we just need to have some level of engagement to let people understand what's actually going on. And I do just want to, I was prepared to second Councillor Muscat's amendment, but I just wanted to highlight one point. This is a project, a facility that has been in need from the Boyne-Tatum community for some 3 decades. It has been talked about for so long, and there has been many attempts across that time to try and realise this. This council is the closest that we've ever come to making that a reality for our community, and I do think it is a strategic one of the projects on our strategic priorities list. I agree with Councillor Churchill. It has been sent to all candidates, but the reality is we have one candidate for in the upcoming federal election that's made a commitment. This is a critical opportunity for us to get and put pressure on other candidates to try and fund this project for our community. I don't believe that now is the time to sit idle and hope, and I think we need to be ferocious in the advocacy for this funding for our community. We're so close, and I would support at least having something there where we can make sure that it is known that we absolutely need another commitment from other candidates in that upcoming federal election to try and secure this project for our community.
Thanks, Councillor Khan. I think your voice and others around the table today have made it very loud and clear that this is a hot button issue for the Boyne-Tatum community. And the expectation is in relation to delivery as soon as possible of this important project from both a economic and lifestyle point of view. Do you seek to, or do you wish to make an amendment, or are you happy with the commentary that you've made in the public forum today?
I'm happy to leave it as said, unless there's other support in the room. Sorry, I've just got my children in the back round, but happy to leave it at that, Councillor Trevor, unless there's appetite in the room.
Councillor Khan, being the mover of the motion, I understand your intent, as I indicated to Councillor Muscat there before. How we become ferocious, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm sure that each and every one of us around this table, individually and collectively, have a responsibility, because it's part of our core role as elected members in the local government area to ensure that we are advocating for projects of a priority. So we can do that individually, we can do that collectively, and as I'd indicated there earlier, we've got media in the room here today, and I'm sure that there'll be others listening on. Hopefully the media might be able to portray that story as well as part of that ferocious approach that you wanted to take to the candidates, which means every candidate. You happy with that? Yep. Okay.
Councillor Natal.
I'm glad, Can, you're happy. I'm still not really, but the thing is, we have done this in the past for other projects, and all I'm trying to do is just make sure that that is documented. Again, I know we have the media here, but we're not the media, so, and I want to do as much as we can to secure at this time a very special, important time where we have again Flynn up for grabs in a seat that is highly contested, and I just want to make sure that we do as much as we can to secure at least a matching commitment from the other candidates.
I think, Councillor Natalia, that your question or commentary has been answered by Carly in relation to key stakeholders being advised as early as this afternoon what the decision of this council is about to be. And having said that, is there any further discussion or commentary in relation to the officer's recommendation or any alternate motion? No further commentary. Councillor Branthwaite and Councillor Khan, no further commentary or questions? No questions, queries, concerns, issues or dramas? All good? Okay, so we have a mover in Councillor Glenn, a seconder in Councillor Chris. All in favour of the officer's recommendation? It's carried. Khan, I just can't see your hand, mate. It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Right, so the next item on the agenda is... sorry, the Mayor, we're just text messaging the Mayor to come back online.
Sorry? How do I bring that up?
Thank you.
Okay, we have Mayor Matt back online, and we'll move to... welcome back, Mayor. We'll move to item G/3.2, consideration of the Boyne-Burnett Inland Rail Trail Master Plan and Concept Designs. And we'll hear from the General Manager, Strategy and Transformation. Again, Carly Quinn. Carly, over to you.
Thank you, Council. Council's advocated for the establishment of a rail trail between Gladstone and Monto to increase recreational options and improved health and economic outcomes for our region for the past few years. The project's known as the Boyne-Burnett Inland Rail Trail. The project spans over two government areas, the Gladstone Regional Council and North Burnett Regional Council, with the Department of Transport and Main Roads being the owner of the trail. Gladstone Area Water Board also control a proposed portion of the rail trail. The Boyne-Burnett Inland Rail Trail Incorporated is an association, or a committee, as I'll refer to them, that has actively driven this project for a number of years. Recently, they've been successful in being issued a licence through DTMR to work and make improvements along the rail corridor, and most recently opening a portion of the trail, including the 6 tunnels. Reports are that the opening's been very successful and well supported by both our community and visitors from outside of the region. In 2020, Council was successful in securing 100% funding to develop concept designs for the trail as a joint project between GRC and NBRC, with the Rail Trail Committee as a key stakeholder. The funding was not made available to the committee and only available to local government. Today's report presents these designs for noting and recommends that we hand these designs and all subsequent documentation to the committee, to North Burnett Regional Council and to the Water Board to finalise the project, and for us to finalise this project.
Thanks, Carly. Questions? Councillor Desley.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Chris. You just mentioned on your first line that the trail was from Tarragula to Monto. So can I...
Gladstone to Monto?
Oh, Gladstone to Monto.
Did I say Tarragula?
No, sorry, Gladstone to Monto, but
sorry.
it's Tagenda.
Okay, yes, sorry.
So I just wanted to correct you on that, that's all. So, yeah, I'll continue. I've got a few things to ask. So with having a look at the designs, I've had a quite comprehensive look at the designs. Now, I did find, I'll just put some glasses on so I can see. So in the money spent on having the design, I'll just find that. I'm not quite sure in the legal documents and the agreement with TMR, there is a portion left over that wasn't spent. So is there any possibility that, so it's $330,000 and initially, and it was 100% covered by TMR. So, so is there any way we could use the remaining amount of money to fill in the gaps, as in, you know, like we've done 3 sections. We've done the Gayndah to Mundubbera, Kelpower through to Bullion, and Yubobo through to Tarragula. So, yeah, so I was just wondering, is there any way, and like I said, I don't know what was in the legal documents about utilising the money that was left over, basically, to do the finish off the rest of the project, so it's a whole project of 270 kilometres, not just 100 kilometres.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Grady. So the feasibility study indicated the 3 parts of the trail that we proceeded with for the concept design, indicated they were the most viable options, so those were the ones we proceeded with. The funding agreement, that what we applied for and the funding agreement that we entered into was very specific about those. So it would require potentially a variation with TMR and potentially another extension. We would need more time to complete that. Probably what my recommendation would, there's approximately 117,000, which is what you're talking about. My recommendation would probably be that we advocate for the state to provide that funding direct to the committee. When we've been reviewing, or when we've been looking to enter into agreements with TMR in the past, we've had a lot of concerns around some of the legal parts of the agreements that they are not willing to remove from the agreements, that hold us accountable for ownership of any ongoing outcomes of any of the works that happen as a result of any of the funded works. So that would include any of the designs that are done. So that would be my recommendation. However, technically the answer is it would be up to the department as to whether they would allow a variation to the scope and a variation to the time. And obviously council to support the further investment of council resources.
Councillor Chris? Just, I suppose, have you finished, Councillor Desley?
Oh,
sorry, yeah. No, have you finished?
No?
No, you keep going. I just wanted to support your endeavours because, no, keep going.
Otherwise, what my suggestion was about the detail and construct as well. So, but I just thought, we know it's feasible because the feasibility study said 3 sections, so the sections in between, we know that it's going to be feasible. So, so that's why I was myself thinking with the concept design for the 2 sections that have been missed out, so we can do the 270 kilometres. So, in that case, if it was detail and construct, whether we could, council could write and say, you know, whether we could, with the detail and construct on, you know, some of those sections that are, well, the section that's already open really. So, and I know there's another section they're looking at opening in the near future, in the next few months. So, yeah, that was just sort of my question.
So to my knowledge, there's no current funding rounds open, but our knowledge of the funding rounds that TMR have had around rail trails is that concept designs, in the past, their programs have had concept designs 100% funded. That's why the original resolution on this was to go to detailed design. We had to come back to council and say if we go to detailed design, TMR would like a 50% contribution, so we could do concept design, which is 100%. So my current knowledge, without talking to the department, is that if we went to detailed design, they would want a co-contribution of 50%. So that might be something we would have to ask the committee for.
Yeah, and I don't think the committee would be in a position to pay, match it 117,000. So I think, if we looked at whether we could ask whether we could use the money for the concept design.
I guess it's council's appetite, but I would just say that we would need to come back to council to let you know how we would anticipate to accommodate that into the work plan. So currently there's nothing in the work plan for strategic projects or for the strategic asset performance design team to undertake any further work on this, but obviously we'll follow your direction.
Through the chair, doesn't this motion, sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, no, you're good.
You go ahead.
We're listening.
Let me think about this and go to somebody else for a sec.
Councillor Rick, did you have a question?
Yeah, doesn't this, the motion we have on the books say that this is the final part of the motion, that we've completed this design?
That's correct. This will complete the current resolution.
I would probably be okay if we looked to ask the state government to redeploy this 117,000, but I don't want I don't want the council committing anything else in the project at this moment. That's where I'm coming from, and the motion that we have on the books says that that's the way we should be going.
So are you recommending that council ask on Bert's behalf to whether Bert and TMR would have that relationship to give the funding to them to complete that?
I don't know the way we could do that, but that would be up to the whole of the table to see whether we could come up with something, if that was the appetite.
Councillor Chris, I was going to make a recommendation to Councillor O'Grady there before, if she was trying to infer that there should be a .3 at the end of it, based on our General Manager's astute and expert advice in relation to the final acquittal, because there is a surplus there that appropriately would have to go back to government. And as we all know, trying to get funds out of government is the first challenge, and then when you do it quite successfully and you run under budget, you don't want to have to give it back. But if it can be put to good use in relation to the missing links, and I agree with Councillor Hanson, that, the time has arrived now, but if there's a way of being able to word a .3 that if you'd be receptive, if you're going to move the motion, I'd imagine maybe we could include a .3 that simply says, as part of the acquittal, the surplus amount be favourably considered for Bert to use that to progress their business case in relation to the missing links. And again, I'm only throwing some words out there, but I'll be guided by your advice, Carly.
Yeah, certainly we could add an item that asked us to write to the department to suggest that they liaise with the committee to further fund the committee with any works, and we could highlight the amount that isn't going to be claimed. So there's approximately $117,000 that we won't be drawing down or we won't be claiming on this funding.
Mayor Matt, I understand you have some questions.
No, just wanting to support what Councillor O'Grady was saying. I think that we simply, also what Councillor Churchill said, that the third point is that we request that the balance be transferred to BBERT to complete the development of the Inland Rail project. I don't think we need to be specific what we transfer the money for, because they might find that they can use it for something else. Could be for detailed design, could be for missing links, could be for rails, could be, to fund Weekender to come back again. Who cares? There's money there that should be allocated to BBERT, and I think the government to date have been very supportive of this project, and I think we definitely need a third dot point to say that we request the government transfer that money to BBER.
You're suggesting an amendment to the officer's recommendation, Mayor, by adding item 3.
Yes.
In that the council requests that the balance funds in the sum of 117,000, I think it was, be transferred to BBER.
Yeah. To continue the development of the project. I think we leave it as simple as that.
To continue the development of the project.
And I'm happy to move that way.
Tanya, Carly and Tanya, any thoughts in relation to the proposed amendment?
Tanya's probably got some proposed wording. I would probably just request that we don't include the actual amount. We can say that the balance of the funding agreement, just because it might be $116,439. Who knows? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Natalia, just before you go there, Mayor, item 3, the amendment currently, and it's a long way from where I'm sitting, that following the acquittal of the grant funding, the Chief Executive Officer write to Department of Transport and Main Roads requesting that the unspent funds be transferred to BBER Inc. Do you want
Sounds perfect.
Are you happy with that?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Excuse me,
Councillor
Mr. Mayor.
Natalia.
Oh, sorry. Could we put on the end for towards the development of the trail at the end?
I'm happy with that, but I originally did have that. But I think if it's transferred to BBER, maybe you might use it for Weekender, or maybe you use it for something else. I think once the money gets in BBER's bank account, then you could determine what it is, although the state, being their money, would actually determine what you're probably allowed to do with it. So you might not want to limit it in the resolution.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Natalia.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. I was just look, I don't have any problem with this, but wasn't the issue the fact that the committee couldn't apply for the funds and it was only local government that was to apply for the funds? What would that change? It's more like if the criteria in the funding it's to be used by local government, why would they agree to just give over $100,000 to a committee? That's okay. I mean, I'm not opposed to this, but it just seems like we're going backwards because this was what we discussed at the beginning. We committed to help them because they couldn't do it themselves. And now we're telling them that, say some part of this funding is going back to them when they've already told us no.
I think the issue is that there's no point in not asking.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm just think we need to be realistic to understand that if they wanted to, I mean, I don't even think we need to have it in a resolution. Like, we want to ask somebody to give someone else money, $100,000, but again, we don't want to write in a resolution that we want to ask a candidate to commit money to one of our major projects. But that's okay. I'm just a little bit lost in here. But I'm not opposed to this.
That was the last motion, Councillor.
Yeah,
we can't go back.
I know. I'm just kind of trying to understand how our logic works. But again, I'm not opposed to this. But again, I don't have many expectations that the government will then transfer money from a budget that was designed for local governments, not for profit organisations, and that wouldn't be. It wouldn't be something I will hold against them. That's how it was the whole time, and that's why we stepped in and did it. So.
But that was part of the previous motion, and I mean, if we've been astute enough to be able to make some savings on this unspent funds, I'd rather see those funds spent in the Gladstone region than perhaps be allocated and designated to another region who's being proactive to ask. So. I just believe that this is a matter between the Queensland government and BBER. So if we ask the question, the two parties can sort it out themselves. We're out.
The funding was always a business between the state government and the council. sorry, the funding was always a business between the state government and council. So that's okay. I'm not opposed to having this here. I'm just being realistic and kind of, well, I'm not, if they don't do it, I wouldn't hold it against them because that was never the intent. And they can use the money wherever they fit, wherever they feel is most convenient and most advantaged to the whole of the Queensland state anyway. Or it could be from neighbouring councils that are also part of the trail.
Mayor, you have some more questions or comments?
I see the Deputy Mayor probably needs to learn how to put his hand up on Teams rather than just wave it there, but that's all right. I'll just be quick. I think regardless of whether they give us the funding or not, I think originally you got to understand with a new group like that, probably the state government was a bit concerned about the capacity of BBERT to deliver the project, and that's why they use local government. I think they can see now, the proof's in the pudding, that the volunteers have done an amazing job making that rail trail come to life, and I don't think there's going to be any concern with them supporting them either with this funding or future funding, because they've obviously got the runs on the ground. But you can understand them being cautious in the first instance why they wanted to fund local government. But I think the capacity of BBERT has proven themselves now that I think federal and state funding will follow. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Khan, questions or comments?
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. I'm old school, Mr. Mayor. That's why I keep going. But I understand what Councillor Muscat's saying, but I do think that TMR and this whole funding arrangement, there has been a number of things that have gone out of the ordinary with the application and the applying of funds, and it's clear that the state government supports rail trails and the development of those rail trails. It's clear that whilst I understand what you're saying, that funding there was designed for local government, that the intent's quite clear that they want to give that funding to the development of these rail trails, and I think it's well within their power to do so if they choose. So I'm happy to support putting that in the resolution there, and then we can all hope that that funding will make its way to BBERT and we'll be able to continue the great work that they're doing up there.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Darrell, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I don't. Thank you, Councillor Trevor. It's I think it's I'm in agreement with the whole discussion. I think as Mayor Matt says, the BBERT certainly does have runs on the board now, and have shown over the last 12, 18 months that they're pretty fair income and monies are well spent. So towards the development of the rail trail would be absolutely fantastic.
Thanks, Councillor Darrell. Councillor Natalia.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify. I'm not against writing this, and I think, in fact, I think if there's anything else we need to do is reconsider what is the arrangement we have in relation to the whole of the project. So, and what we just said about the fact that the committee's done a great job and that they have runs on the board and all that, I 100% agree with that. However, the government and TMR has recently not agreed with us to give to something pretty similar in this case, and it was because we don't have because BERT doesn't. It's not able to. I mean, we still have council still doesn't want to take over the corridor, which is a lot of legal issues and a lot of risk and a lot of stuff in there. So, I think I'm not going to tell the government exactly what they need to do. They obviously have their reasons to do what they do, but if they say no, they will be saying no the same way they said no a few months ago when we had issues applying for other funding. So, and if they haven't understood that the committee has done a great job and all that, we've done everything we can, and I'm happy to add this, but I'm just need to put out there that our expectations, I wouldn't expect them to say yes to these. So.
Councillor Trevor, would you accept a point of order here at this stage in relation to governance? We're going to mover and a seconder for the motion. What's your thoughts as chair?
Thanks, Glenn. I've never been a person to seek to prevent healthy debate around this table.
Totally agree.
Even if it requires us to sit here till midnight tonight. So I'll let the
Order the
conversation flow at this stage and accept your recommendation to order pizzas if necessary, Councillor Glenn. Councillor Desley.
Thank you. Councillor Muscat, I just wanted to let you know that there has been a change of with the funding arrangement. So this funding arrangement you were talking about, there's now an MOU going to be signed with like the $80,000. So the TMR are actually going to work directly to the Burt Group. So
that's great news.
Yes, so that's probably happened while you've been away, I suppose. So which is a great news. So and like the Mayor has said, the group has actually shown their colours, and we've actually had the Minister Mark Bailey up and ride the trail, and he's very impressed with the trail. And we've just had the TMR guys up last week to inspect it, and they're very happy. And there's just a few things that need to be done, of course. And so they're very, very happy. So I'm hoping this would be very positive when it goes, and we'll wait to hear what the answer is, I suppose. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that, but I was just concerned because not before I knew of this last news, the state government wasn't keen on having those sort of arrangements, and I'm happy they are now.
Thanks, Councillor Desley. As I've always maintained, a visionary project for this region that will be developed long after I've passed. We'll need a mover to the officer's recommendation with the amendment proposed by the Mayor, and the mover is Councillor Desley. It's seconded by Councillor Natalia. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, and that is item G/3.3, Phillip Street Advisory Committee Quarterly Update, and the report will be presented by our General Manager, Community Development and Events, Kylie Lee. Over to you, Kylie.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Good morning, councillors. Good morning, Mr Mayor. Good morning, community. Today we present our first report from the Phillip Street Advisory Committee. Our terms of reference stipulate annual reporting. However, the committee has provided their report at the first 6 months to give an update on its progress to date. Just an outline on the committee's membership. So our committee consists of our two councillor representatives, so Councillor Muscat and Councillor O'Grady, Chris Ford as representative of the Salvation Army, Shakira Raymond as representative of GAPDL, Auntie Cecilia Egmalees as representative of the First Nation people, Kate Dufty as representative of the disability sector, Supriya Singh as representative of the culturally and linguistically diverse community, Christine Ward and Monica Mattingly as representatives of senior and youth respectively, and myself, Lee Griffith and Emily Costello as committee members, subject matter expert and committee secretariat. I'd just like to take a quick opportunity to thank the committee for their input to date and their time in representing the different sectors that they do and having a continued voice at the precinct. At this point in time, there are 2 vacant roles on the committee for young people and for seniors. We're actively recruiting for both of those roles at the moment. Over the past 6 months, the committee have undertaken their inductions, their governance training. They've participated in asset-based community development training and also trauma-informed care. Officers are currently working with the committee to develop an annual training plan in the areas of diversity and inclusion. The committee continues to meet on a monthly basis at this stage. The terms of reference require the committee to meet at least 6 times a year. However, given the maturity of the precinct, we are meeting monthly at the moment. The advisory committee is a key component of the unique operating model for Phillip Street and provides that two-way feedback between the operations group, the bookings group, and provides strategic direction and also a conduit for community voice. To date, the committee have made 36 recommendations to the operations group, focused mainly around accessibility, signage, marketing across the site, and identifying opportunities to increase community understanding of the precinct's mission. I'd just like to give councillors Muscat or O'Grady an opportunity to share their feedback regarding the advisory committee, and then we can open for questions.
Councillor Natalia, yes?
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Kylie. It's definitely been, this will be our first report,
It is
isn't
our
it?
first
Yes,
report,
yeah.
yep.
So it's been a bit of a ride. And the committee, it's got a lot of people that are quite eager to contribute and to show their ideas and to be involved. We are, as you said, improving as we go and trying, seeing different challenges and different things we can do better, identifying that obviously the building is a new one. So there's things that, we're noticing and we go along the way. I'm really happy about the fact that the occupancy is increasing. There's so many different groups using, especially the share facility. And the amount of people that have gone through the place, it continues to increase. I think there's a lot more potential, and I think the advisory committee and the operations group and the whole of the, I guess the model of operating is going to continue to make that happen. There's a lot of potential there. This was my view before. I don't know if we're going to end up having what we thought we were going to have, but what is going to happen is going to be shaped by the people in there, by the community, by what the needs are and how things are changing. Obviously, this project started a long time ago. Our community was different, the needs were different. So to me, it's not a problem if we end up having something a little bit different to what we thought it was going to be. I'm also quite proud of the fact that we have facilities that are now fit for purpose and for our staff to work from. And you can tell that it's just a much happier environment. So some of our offices are a bit dated, and I think that the best thing we can do is look after our people so they can look after the community. And that's, to me, is one of the big positives. I also love the kids area. There's always playgroups and things like that, and things that we've been needing for a while. So I just look forward to see where we develop, and I think these reports are great. And and with Councillor O'Grady, we do provide updates to the rest of the table. So I do send notes when I can from the meetings. When we worry about not having enough people coming in, but then obviously we had all the COVID situations, and then we have lots of different changes in our community. But so we'll love to have any questions if you have any, so I can help Kylie answer them. I'm sure Councillor O'Grady could too.
Thanks, Councillor Natalia. Councillor Desley.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. It's been actually a fantastic journey from the beginning to now. I just want to thank Christine Holden, Christine Ward, that she's been offering her services, volunteering her services for 8 months, and she's actually resigned from the committee. So I'd like to thank her for her input. It's been very valuable for the seniors' point of view. So that's been fantastic. And when we attended the meeting last week, it was great to hear that now sort of we're off the back of sort of COVID, that more people are booking the areas. So I think that it has risen by about 10%, which is fantastic, the bookings. And I think 32 different groups have booked it for the month of March. So which is fantastic to hear. We've got a lot more to go, but it's just a great thing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. We also have Lee Griffiths online, our Manager of Engagement and Partnerships, who shared with me this morning that we are seeing a continued increase. So we do have 34 groups in March. I think we have 49 in April. So we are seeing a return in that space. So it's great news.
I've got Councillor Branthwaite wanting to ask a question or make a comment. Councillor Darrell.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. Yeah, it was actually, I'll just turn my hand off there now. I was just interested in the KPI side of it. How do we actually measure its success? And Kylie, you just touched on it then, as far as the amount of groups that are actually coming to the sector. But obviously, with it's in its infancy, we've got an opportunity here to actually to test and measure a lot of things and actually measure its success by visitation and obviously with a needs gap and where the gaps are and where we can target things to make sure that this project is 100% successful for our community. Have you guys got anything in place?
We will definitely have. I am going to pass over to Lee Griffiths for this one. We actually are working through a really exciting project at the moment with our evaluation model. So I'll just pass over to Lee to explain that process.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council. So yes, we are currently working on an evaluation framework which basically looks at the problem statement and a theory of change in relation to the objectives of connection, lifelong learning and well-being. And we recently gone out, Salvation Army have gone out with the RFX. They will be bringing on someone to design the specialist tools that are bespoke to the precinct that will measure the outcomes of that evaluation framework. So we've got some real specialist input. So as well as the occupancy, there'll be a range of other indicators that we'll use. And we'll also partner quite closely with Gladstone Region Engaging in Action together around that measurement piece because there's some real synergy between the works.
Yeah, look, that's actually quite fine, but I was actually looking at, you know, it's nice to have groups and everything in there, but if the people that are requiring the need to go there aren't going there, then we need to work out what we're actually doing wrong, or if they are coming there, how are they getting there? What are they? How are they finding out about this? And are their needs covered?
So these will be questions that will form the evaluation framework and the community voice element of the precinct. So there'll be a number of different touch points where community can provide us that feedback, and we can use that to evaluate and change and evolve as we go forwards.
And create some KPIs and some measurable outcomes.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you.
In addition, Councillor Branthwaite, if I can, I will share the precinct's program logic, which outlines the problem statement in the 3 areas that Lee just mentioned and the objectives that we're trying to achieve. Then the evaluation framework will actually evaluate on some of those objectives as well. So I'll share that with councillors for your information.
Thanks very much, Kylie.
Thanks, Councillor Darrell. Councillor Rick.
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy with the advisory committee and what they're doing and the work they're doing. Happy with the report. One concerning a paragraph, though, on page 19 of the whole agenda. During the January 22 advisory committee meeting, a discussion was held around the asset design and accessibility. And the discussion focused on buildings being designed to meet legal standards that are usually the minimum standards. Can you tell me what that means, and have we met all our obligations when we built the building with project management? Because I need to be ensured that our system and our process in project management covers completely the disability and access standards. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Hanson. I'm really glad you raised that because our strategic asset performance team definitely include disability and inclusion in all of their designs. What that paragraph really is talking about is the level of inclusion and disability access that we're providing. So, for example, a changing places facility would probably be at a gold standard, whereas DDA compliant facilities would be at our usual standard. So with the precinct, there wasn't an adult change table included, for example, so that gold level plating is basically at that standard. So with Kate Dufty on the committee representing our disabled community, we actually are being able to have some really great conversations with our SAP team around our asset design. So I can assure you everything's in order in that space.
I've worked with Kate before, and I know the work that she does.
She's great.
And she's great. But I'm just going back to processes of buildings, new buildings,
yes,
and making sure that we have all of the dots, the T's crossed and the I's dotted with our process. Sorry, we'll use that word again, Mr. Chair. Process.
Thanks, Councillor.
But if you're happy with that,
yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Any further questions or comments, Councillor Chris?
Yeah, that was exactly the question I was going to ask, actually, Councillor. And you got in first. It's a race to get in, I know. Yeah, I read that and I thought, what does that really mean? Does that mean we've got deficiencies there? Is something that some design standards or some common sense standards have not been met?
No, not at all. So we do have a lot of ageing facilities, as Council would be aware of. So as we go through renewals and upgrades, we definitely look at the DDA, the Disability Act, and make sure that our amenities are inclusive and our access points are inclusive. A really good example of that is the Tondoon Botanic Gardens Cafe and the new access ramp that's been developed in that space. So as we go through those renewals and designs, it's certainly an absolute consideration. I guess having Kate on our committee provides us with some intel that we probably didn't have at that level before. So we are compliant, and as we go through those renewal processes, it gives us an opportunity to have a look at our designs.
So there's nothing there that needs to be altered or amended at this point?
No.
Okay.
If I may just quickly, just to confirm, this is a level of service conversation is what I'm seeing here. There's meeting the standards, which we've done, and there can be the extra mile that we can go to that can make that even better. So they're decisions about cost, design, benefit, and the real inclusion benefits that can be attained from there. So there's no building standard we haven't met. This is just, are there extra things we can do that make it that little bit more special and easier to access and be part of? Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. That's exactly right. So little items such as an opening door versus a sliding door, things like that, where Kate does provide us some intel. She is in a wheelchair and experiences these things every day. So they're the type of improvements that we're working through, Councillor Cameron.
So that's not included. It shouldn't be for you to design that. That should be in the original design of a building. Like we know what Phillip Street was going to be. We knew it had to have disability access that was probably gold plated, as you say. I'm just asking, why wasn't that done in the first place? Why does Kate have to find that out now? I just want to make sure that we go back in our processes, and maybe Kate's involved at the start of a new building rather than at the end of it, so that we don't we don't start off on the wrong foot with disability, because there were some comments early on about there need to be some gold-plated standards, yeah. So I just want that into the process beforehand, and that's probably not your job, that's probably project management on building, yeah.
Sorry, if I may, Mr Chair, I think that is probably a different conversation that we need to have with councillors prior, because our designers are working to standards. If we're saying we want different standards applied or a different approach, we need to have that direction very clearly at the beginning, so then we know what we're working to. Yeah, but absolutely happy to have that conversation with councillors.
Any further questions or comments? There being no further questions or comments, we need a mover for the officer's recommendation. Councillor Natalia moves the recommendation, seconded by Councillor Chris. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. We'll have a short break, I think, ladies and gentlemen.
You know our age, Councillor?
Absolutely.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering costs our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
see it, report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Righto, we'll just resume the meeting now with item G/3.4, sole supplier Alta Pacific, and we'll hear from Manager Contracts and Procurement, Christy Wagner. Over to you, Christy.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr Mayor and councillors. This report seeks a resolution from Council to make use of provisions in Section 235 of the Local Government Regulation, allowing for exceptions to the requirement for written quotes and tenders. Use of this provision sought in relation to the temporary heating of the 50-metre outdoor pool and upgrading of the heating system as part of the Gladstone Aquatic Rejuvenation Project. A request for quote was issued to the market encompassing all vendors in Queensland that are registered for providing heating services for commercial pools. One response was received. The response received is greater than 200,000 and we're therefore seeking to use this provision in order to allow us to enter into the contract. Any questions?
Questions, councillors? All pretty straightforward. We'll need a mover for the... Sorry, Councillor Chris?
The heatings for the temporary heating for the 50-metre pool, does that mean that it's going to be taken away, or is that an asset that's included in the pool from here on in?
Thanks, Councillor Cameron. I can answer that for you. So the option that we're currently progressing with The temporary heating for the 50-metre pool will be used on the 25-metre pool. So we're actually utilising that heating system as part of the rejuvenation project, and it actually does have the ability to heat the 50-metre pool in the future should council wish to upgrade the power supply at the facility.
Thank you for that. That was just a matter of interest question, really. Thank you.
No further questions. We have a mover, Councillor Rick, a seconder, Councillor Desley. All in favour? Can't see you, mate. Yep, good. All in favour, carried unanimously. Thank you. Sorry, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, and that's G/3.5, 21-22 sole suppliers additional, and we'll hear from the Manager Contracts and Procurement, Christy Wachner again. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you. This report seeking resolution from Council to include Terrequip Proprietary Limited. They're the OEM original equipment manufacturer of JCB equipment. To our sole supplier list for the period of the 21-22 financial year. This exception allows us to avoid written quotes and tenders as the year progresses. They are the original equipment manufacturer for JCB equipment, which is Council has plants such as backhoes, which are JCB, so it just enables us to be able to source spare parts for that equipment directly from the manufacturer. Any questions?
Move the recommendation, Councillor Chris. I've got no questions.
No further questions or comments. Moved Councillor Glenn, seconded Councillor Darrell. All in favour? Carried unanimously. We'll move on to the next item, and I will need to vacate the chair, which is item G/3.6, based on the previous conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. I'll resume the chair from Teams, and I'll hand back over to the manager for this report, please. I think I'm going to the General Manager, or acting, because Mark Holmes is an apology. So who's my acting General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk?
There's no acting GM, but the Manager, Tanya Wally, is taking this report, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. Over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, councillors. This report proposes the repeal of Council's work, health and safety policy and the adoption of a new work health and safety policy to reflect the current international standard for occupational health and safety management systems, ISO 45001, to replace the current Australian-New Zealand standard, which is due to be repealed by the 13th of July 2023. It doesn't have any particular impacts. It's more of an administrative change, but Vicky is here if you had any questions.
Thank you, Tanya. Councillors, questions to Vicky or Tanya, please. Councillor Hanson, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm happy with it, and especially with the copy you've put through at track changes makes it much easier for us to see the changes that you've made, so thanks.
It's really just administratively tidying up the policy.
Yep, I'd be happy to move that as well.
Thanks, Councillor Hanson. Seconded, Councillor Goodluck, or do you have a question? You're seconding. Is there any other questions, councillors? No questions further to that. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Vicky. It's moved Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Goodluck. Put the motion, all in favour? Motion's carried. And if we're going to invite Councillor Trevor back in, I'll hand over the chair back to him. Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Back to you.
Thanks, Mayor Matt. I'll resume the chair, and the next item on the agenda is item G/3.7, review of motor vehicle policy, and we'll hear from our Manager, Governance and Risk, Tanya Wally. Over to you, Tanya.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Councillors, this report is presented to you today following an extensive review of the motor vehicle policy and corporate standard. The review was undertaken by the governance team in consultation with the business. The review identified a number of duplications between the policy and the corporate standard. The corporate standard alone was 72 pages, and this is now being consolidated into 22 pages. We're proposing the repeal of the policy, and it would just be governed by the corporate standard.
Any questions, comments or concerns? Everyone appears to be happy. We'll need a mover for the officer's recommendation. Moved Councillor Chris. Cameron, seconded Councillor O'Grady. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move to item G/3.8, monthly financial report for the period ending 28 February 2022. And we'll hear from our Systems and Reporting Accountant, Acting Jessica Rousseau.
Mr Chair, if you prefer, while we're still finding, apologies, Mark had to take his son for a PCR test this morning. He's unavailable for the meeting, but Jess has stepped in at the last minute. We could move on to the next item if Council would like to, while we see if we can find Jess.
Thanks, CEO. We'll move to item G/3.9 as per your recommendation. Welcoming Cities Gladstone Regional Council request to present at Welcoming Interactive 2022, Charlotte, North Carolina. And we'll hear from our Chief Executive Officer, Lisa Dowling.
Thank you, Mr Chair. We have received a very exciting opportunity to present at a conference in the United States, and I've invited Kylie, General Manager of Community Development and Events, to speak to this more fully for you. Thank you, Kylie.
Thank you, Lisa. Councillors, in 2019, Council joined the Welcoming Cities program to support the community's diversity and seek guidance and share some resources to support Council's existing initiatives and aligning with the Welcoming Cities program. Council has made a lot of progress with the Welcoming Cities initiative and aligning with the Welcoming Cities standard, including our Saiki City partnership, our First Nations People Cultural Protocol for Events policy, our Reconciliation Action Plan, our participation in and support of multicultural events, and also Council's corporate plan goal and objectives for connecting communities. Our engagement and partnerships team are currently progressing through the certification process to become an accredited Welcoming City, aligned with the Welcoming City standard. That standard focuses on 6 key areas of leadership, social and cultural inclusion, economic development, learning and skills development, civic participation, and places and spaces. Through Councillor Muscat, Council's received an invitation from Welcoming America to present at its present as a regional Australian council at their Welcoming Interactive Conference in Charlotte, North Carolina on the 18th to 20th of May. Welcoming Australia has nominated Gladstone Regional Council to Welcoming America, noting that GRC would be best placed to present at the conference on the topic of rural welcoming strategies, international lessons and connection. Welcoming America have generously offered to cover the following costs for 2 representatives of GRC, which includes return flights and travel from Gladstone to Charlotte, accommodation for the duration of the conference, and registration to the Welcoming Interactive Conference, including workshop sessions, receptions and several meals. Councillor Muscat's been very actively involved in the Welcoming Cities initiative and was approached by Welcoming Australia with respect to this opportunity. Councillor Muscat, would you like to say any words on this particular invitation?
Sure, through the chair. Yes, well, as you said, it's very exciting. It is something that I am personally quite proud of, and probably one of the first things I did when I joined council back in 2018, so end of 2018. I like to also highlight the fact that we will be the only Australian council to represent, well, I guess the country in this conference, and the fact that Welcoming Cities have identified as a perfect fit for this opportunity. It only just talks to the team, that the work that the team do, and how actually serious we take being inclusive and being fair, not just in our communities but also internally in council. We have a lot of diversity within our staff too, and I know we have a lot of plans to continue to do better and better. So on that, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to learn from other people and from other people from around the world, and with different challenges and different opportunities. And I think it's a great way for us to learn and take examples and follow best practice, not just from Australia, but from the world. If anyone has any questions,
So if I may just sum up, Mr Chair, the offer is for 2 representatives of council to attend this meeting and to be funded, the conference, and to be funded to attend, and it's totally up to council's discretion, but the recommendation would be for your consideration for a councillor and an officer. Councillor Muscat has obviously received this invitation herself, and from an officer perspective, if council was of a mind to nominate an officer, Kylie Lee would be available to attend, but that's totally at council's discretion.
And I would love to attend.
Councillor Rick.
In the light of the generous requests and the money they're going to supply us for tickets and things like that, I think it's probably a no-brainer that we should send both them over, and I'm happy to move that.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Rick. It's a fantastic opportunity, not only for our representatives, but also our region and Australia as a whole, being the only Australian representatives that are heading to the United States of America. I know that ratepayers and taxpayers always get a bit fidgety when we talk of overseas travel, but let me remind everybody in the region today that this is a all expenses paid trip funded by a third party, not by this council. So let there be no queries, questions, concerns, issues or dramas of any nature whatsoever that this is going to cost the ratepayers of this region anything, because it's not. So we can discard that scuttlebutt very quickly. And commend both Natalia and Kylie for their nominations for this fantastic opportunity to represent our region at the most highest level. And thank you to both if that is the recommendation from this council today. So I would like to move that Natalia Muscat and Kylie Lee present at Welcoming America's Welcoming Interactive Conference in Charlotte, North Carolina, USA on 18-20 May 2022, inclusive of conference registration, return flights and accommodation. Seconded by Councillor Rick.
I was just going to add a comment that I had already moved that, but I'm happy to relinquish that movement to you.
Thank you, Rick. I'd love to get one in today.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Rick. All in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Goodluck. Yes. Any questions from those online?
Thanks.
Sorry.
Thanks, Councillor Trevor. I just wanted to say very quickly, congratulate Councillor Muscat. I know it was one of her initiatives to enter into this welcoming cities, and I think it's a testament to our region that we've been invited, all expenses paid, to talk on the world stage about being a welcoming region and a welcoming city and the initiatives that we've got here. And I just think it's a really fantastic achievement, and I look forward to, happy to support obviously, and look forward to learning how it all pans out. Thank you.
Thanks, Khan. Moved by Councillor Chris Trevor, seconded by Councillor Rick. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is G/4, deputations, and we... Oh, sorry. apologies. We'll move back to item G/3.8, monthly financial report for the period ending 28 February 2022. And we'll hear from our Systems and Reporting Acting Accountant, Jessica Rosso. Jessica.
Thank you. Good morning, and apologies for the reorganisation. I've been following along on the live stream this morning, but maybe it wasn't quite as live as I thought, and I was a little bit behind. Yeah. So as mentioned, we're looking at the financials up until the end of February, so that puts us 2/3 of the way through the financial year. I'm just going to run through and touch on some points in here, and then happy to take any questions as we go. So we've got some movement there around the forecast. This isn't a new forecast, this is the same one that you'll have been seeing for the last few months, and that's what we're using when we're doing our comparatives and our percentages. In terms of revenue, our revenue is at 84.24% of our forecast. Obviously that's ahead of pro rata. That's due to the fact that we've already done our rating cycle in this year with just water consumption left for January to June. Interest remains a challenge in the COVID environment in finding those available rates for our deposits, so you can see that is there below pro rata. Sales revenue, this is our recoverable works revenue. Again, that's below pro rata, but that will be offset by below expenditure. Obviously, when we're talking about recoverable works, we're talking about corresponding expenditure and income, so we'll see that a little later in the report. Our income tax equivalence, so the vast majority of that budget relates to the dividend from the Gladstone Area Water Board, which is yet to be received for this year. I've had a look at the pattern in the last few years, and I suspect that may come in within April, maybe. So we may see that by the next time we do this report. In terms of grants, subsidies, contributions and donations, again, there's a large portion of that budget that relates to the FAG grant, which typically we get our largest instalment in June. So seeing below pro rata amounts there. With reference to capital revenue, when talking about capital grants, there's a little bit of information here just regarding the fact that in accordance with the accounting standards for revenue, we recognise the income for those grants on the profit and loss as we expend on those capital projects. So it's not to say that we haven't received some of this money relating to capital grants, it's just that we haven't been able to recognise it yet in the books. There is a table there that shows for our projects with major budgets, forecasts or actuals where they're at for the year so far. So as we progress towards the end of the year and we've got our capital expenditure happening, we'll be able to recognise some more of that revenue and pull it into the profit and loss. Turning to expenditure, you can see overall for recurrent expenditure, we're at 63.41% of our forecast, which is a good position to be in at this time of the year. Typically, we do see a little swell at the end of the year when we do our year-end accruals process. So nice to have a little bit of an advantage on it there at the moment. Employee benefits are coming in right on the nose at 65.5% of forecast, which is what we like to see. Contractors and consultants, below forecast at the moment. However, we are expecting to see some accruals at year-end. I've also had a discussion this morning regarding some of these asset management consultants where we're lagging a little bit in that area, and there are some savings expected in that area to the tune of about $150,000 just regarding the refining of some forecasts compared to the information that we had available when we set those budgets. So that may remain under and come in slightly under in that area. Donations and sponsorships, as you know, we've got our community celebration fund and we've still got some events that take place in that last part of the year regarding the Harbour Festival and things like that. For equipment, high compared to pro rata at the moment. However, there is always a balance between our equipment expenses and our contractor expenses, depending on whether we're utilising wet or dry hire when it comes to work on our projects. Motor vehicle expenses, I've got a comment there regarding the logistical supply issues in replacing our fleet. So we are holding on to those for a little bit longer at the moment, which is resulting in some increased maintenance expenditure. Nothing too drastic there at the moment though. When we look at staff and counsellor expenses, we're still seeing the ongoing impacts of COVID on our attendance at training and conferences. So face-to-face opportunities remain limited in some areas. And when we look at finance costs, we did do a reforecast of this, which changed the position due to the difference in the interest rates that we had expected to get from our refinancing versus what we did get from our refinancing when it came across the line. So tracking okay compared to our forecast there on finance expenses. If we look at the balance sheet, there's a table here. We've got our variance in our assets and our liabilities. Both are measured as unfavourable at the moment. However, with assets, as we progress through the year, we're expecting our cash to come down, our plant and equipment to go up as we complete our capital works, and then at year end we also expect to see our debtors and our receivables increase as we do some billing and some catch up there at year end. And with our liabilities, they will come down as we make our loan payments between now and the end of the year. Capital expenditure, so we've got our usual tables and graphs here. At the moment, capital expenditure year to date is 31.9 million, which is 43.35% of the budget. If we take into account the commitments that we currently have in our system, we're at 45.9 million, which takes us up to 62.42%. And I believe that the councillors received an update in February from the Works Planning and Schedule team on the Capex. Outstanding rates. I'm a big fan of this graph this year. You can see that we've had some really great work in this space from the revenue team in their recovery, and our line for the current financial year doesn't even touch our previous years. So our percentage of outstanding rates at 6.03% at the end of February 2022 is really great compared to those trends from prior years. So a big pat on the back there for the team that have done work in that space. Into the ratios, same ones that we see every month. The most interesting part of this for me is to see our progress on our asset sustainability ratio. So this year at the moment we're at 89.83% with a target of 90%. And this is because our capital portfolio for this year, the projects that we've selected have an emphasis on renewals, which is great to see. The rest of the ratios do continue to be a little bit skewed due to the fact that we rate early in the year and then we unwind our expenses as the year goes on. But nothing too drastic in there compared to where they were in the previous month. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Jess. Any questions, queries or concerns? Councillor Des Lee.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Just wondering, I know at the moment with the fuel costs, do you think, it's escalating, it's going to get more expensive, I would say. Is that going to impact, like we've got so many motor vehicles and we go through so much fuel, is that going to impact much on our operational costs?
Yeah, I would suspect that when it comes time to do another forecast between now and end of financial year, we will see that fuel increase. We do have the benefit of bulk purchasing our fuel at the depots, but I would assume that we will still see an increase, the same as what we're seeing out there in the rest of Gladstone, Queensland, Australia. So that will be taken care of when it's time to forecast, and we'll see that reflected in the financials from there.
Yeah. So this might be to Lisa, will we be encouraging all our staff and councillors to be filling up at the council depots so that fuel's cheaper?
My understanding is that's by far the majority of our people fuel up at the depots. So, and this is a fairly recent emerging trend, the increase. So I'm sure the executive will turn our mind to that at our meeting next week and review what we might need to do differently.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That's been on the back of my mind.
Works. Councillor Natalia.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Thank you. I don't really have any questions. I just wanted to just thank you and the team, because I was reflecting yesterday when I was reading these and what I used to read 2 years ago. There's a lot of improvements here, and the way in which we've seen how the expenditure is going is much better than what it was, and I'm very happy about that. So thank you.
Thank you. I will take that feedback back to the team.
Councillor Rick.
Yes, well presented, Jess. And I like the format, and I'm happy to move that is accepted.
Councillor Branthwaite's still waving.
Oh, Councillor Branthwaite.
Sorry, Darryl, Councillor Darryl, I keep forgetting you up there, mate. Sorry, my apologies.
That's okay, Councillor.
You just need to yell at me, mate. I'm getting old.
I'm being very patient up here. Hey, look, thanks, Jessica. Look, this is an amazing. I agree with Natalia. The reports that we get now are, look, I didn't know them prior to 2 years ago, but the reports that we get now are pretty good. But it does open up a couple of things. Now, we've seen a lot of things happen in Gandoon Street, not Gandoon Street, and Toulouse Street, and continuing ongoing. Now, on page 35 of 50, we've got a breakdown of projects, Toulouse Street, Pavement, Footpath renewal. Now, obviously, that's not the only thing that's happening along there, because there's been all sorts of things happening. Now, this obviously, the funding for that isn't part of this. Is that correct?
Sorry, Councillor Branthwaite, I can't see it on this. I can see a Toulouse Street pavement and footpath renewal note on there, but without the context, I'd probably have to go away and have a look into that for you and come back.
Yeah, no, I was just sort of saying about the fact that we're seeing so much activity happen along Toulouse Street that this funding here is pavement footpath renewal, but the whole street's been dug up, so obviously the funding's coming from somewhere else. That's all.
If I may, Mr. Chair, it's TIDS funding. Yes, TIDS funding for that project is the advice.
Is it?
So yeah, 50% funded. Mark Francis is telling us.
Okay.
Yep.
No, I thought the TIDS funding was for the French Street, a long bit further.
That's in next year's budget, Councillor Branthwaite, for the French Street. Yeah.
I was holding my breath for those potholes to be fixed along French Street.
You'll have to hold a bit longer.
I know.
You'll just have to drive in the right lane.
My father does. Thank you.
No further questions? Jess, I had a quick question. Lots of businesses in town are telling me that they're having lots of dramas with supply chain issues. And then once they're getting the supplies through, the costs are coming through 10 or 15% higher. And it's impacting small business quite significantly, no doubt not only in this community but in communities throughout Australia. Are we working towards budgeting those issues, assuming that they are an issue also for council, and I'd be surprised if they weren't? Are we looking at making sure that we're factoring in those future costs, apart from not only in relation to the delay of supply, but also the increased cost when it arrives, the actual product, and the fact that we may not be able to get the product at all for some years, and that's the significance that they're talking about now. It's not cataclysmic, but it's certainly a major issue that's presenting itself in our local community, as I'm hearing word on the street from local businesses, that's all.
Yeah, so at the moment we are in the process of preparing our budget for the 22-23 year. So my team have been working with management around council to get their budgets together and pull their costs together, and we certainly have been having those discussions about both the potential increase in contract costs as well as certain supplies, and also the delays that we're seeing in the receipt of some supplies. So that information has flowed through to us from our manager of contracts and procurement, and we've been making sure that we're sharing that with our other managers as we've been going through the process. So I do believe that we are preparing for that adequately in 22-23.
Great, thanks. Any further questions, queries or concerns? The officer's recommendation is that council adopt the monthly financial statements attached to the officer's report for the 2021-22 year to date for the period ending 28 February 22 as required under section 204 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. We have a mover in Councillor Darryl, seconded Mayor Matt. I'm just trying to get you on the record, Matt. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Right. Thanks, Jess. The next one is item G/4 deputations. We have no deputations. Next item is G/5, councillors' reports. Do we have any councillor reports? None from Mayor Matt, Councillor Branthwaite, Deputy Mayor Khan. Nobody around the table. Item G/6, urgent business. We have no urgent business other than the confidential item that we'll discuss shortly in confidential. No notices of motion. So we're on item G/8 confidential items.
I'll move that we move into confidential.
Yep.
Oh, right.
So the reason for us moving into confidential, Mayor and councillors, is that in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, Section 254J, it is proposed to close the meeting to discuss one confidential item. Item G/8.178-22, Gladstone Aquatic Centre, will be closed under Section 254J in brackets, small g close brackets, negotiations relating to a commercial matter involving the local government for which public discussion would be likely to prejudice the interest of the local government, as this item will discuss contract negotiations with the tenderer. We have a mover to move into confidential, Councillor Glenn, a seconder, Councillor Desley. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it,
stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering costs our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it,
Stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. I'll need a mover to come out of confidential. And we have a mover, Councillor Rick, and a seconder, Councillor Darrell. All in favour? It's carried unanimously. We have a matter G/8, Confidential Officers Report 78-22 GAC Stage 3 Rejuvenation Contractor Security Report before us, and an officer's recommendation. Can I have a mover, please, for the officer's recommendation?
Happy to move the officer's recommendation as prescribed.
Thank you, Councillor Glenn. Do we have a seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Desley. All in favour of the officer's recommendation? It's carried unanimously. There being no further business or items on the agenda, I close the meeting at 12:08 p.m. and thank you all for your attendance.